Hello, this is Navid. In this video, we just go through one simple TCP IP server and a client side. The server will be in a C#, and we're trying to deploy that into the Azure. We open the TCP port 13,000 and as an endpoint, and we configure that in here. If you right click on it in here, we can see the server port was configured as a different endpoint, and we created an endpoint. We configured that it only listen to the TCP port, and 13,000 is a port number. Then we configured the private key, basically the key and the server name that we defined. This is the storage name basically on the Azure side. And on the other hand, we try to develop a simple TCP IP to prove the point that how this is working in a cloud. So we defined a mutex just to make it simple. I just created a dictionary, just a key value pair of a set of URLs and 4 different IPs, real IP addresses. And the flow of the program is basically we are listening to the client side on the specific port that we defined, and when the TCP listener accepts any request from the same port number, it will hand it over to the rest of the flow. The rest of the flow will be piped in a separate thread. As we define it here, we define a separate thread and hand it over. This is basically a reference to client socket, and the one that we just accepted here. And we log the time in every step. Then we hand it over to a different separate function that we're calling throughout the thread. And in the thread, we are start processing it, looking up the basically getting the stream, getting the request from the client side, and process and figure out if this is the valid request. Then we are looking it up in here. We are looking it up in a method to make sure do we have these requests in our side in our DNS or not. If we have it, we return it. Otherwise, we'll just return some invalid point because we cannot use it, or we don't have that URL defined in our site. So basically, the flow is we're capturing the client, start processing it, and responding back to the client. In here, you could see that we captured the result from our dictionary and return it back to the client side, and log the time and close that, basically exit that thread that is already finished handling processing for that specific client. Now, just an example, I will trigger that in my local, then we will go through the deployed one in Azure. So the application is running right now in a local. We could see the profiler, how it is working. We could see the log. Now the application, the server is still listening. Okay, the client side was written in Java, so it's just a very simple Java. It's just triggering a sequence of requests to the server with the separate different types of DNS requests, and we should receive 2 separate IP addresses for this one. Now I will trigger that, and since it is local, it just answers. Since as you can see, the server is local, so the answer was pretty quick. The DNS1 was defined as 4223 and the DNS2 4224. Now check the server and see how it is processing that. As you could see right now, we could understand that okay, the server is connected, waiting for the connection. It captured the request. We saw that the response was basically the client side. I just need to reformat that. You just need reformatting basically. The URL is DNS1. We just logged that, we found it, and this is the IP address 4223 for DNS1, which we captured, and it was handed over in a separate thread. As you can see, the request 1 is the shared, basically is the shared resource, and we are controlling the flow of accessing and modifying this shared resource by mutex. And in the next step, we receive the second one, we count it as the second item, and we get the separate DNS IP address for DNS2. And these 2 clients just finished the processing, and server is still listening. These verbose information that you could see is mostly related to the Azure configuration that we did. Yeah, that's it.